Dear listeners, dear colleagues, dear friends, I want to welcome everybody to this talk about a very interesting topic, very close also to my home, Austria. I'm living close to the Slovenian border. We're going to talk about the last living elephant in Croatia. We're going to talk about how the situation came, what the situation is, and what future perspectives we can develop to maybe improve the situation. There has been already some international attention on the elephant Lanka on the island of Brioni. And I want to welcome our guests today. Our guests are first and foremost Anita Euchen. She is coming from the civil society, an animal welfare organization, and she's dealing with the issue for quite a while. You can then give us some more background a little bit later. I'm very happy that you are joining this conversation today, as you are very knowledgeable about the situation and about the background. And I want to welcome two representatives of the National Park Brioni. It's a national park. It's Dr. Marno Milotic and Dr. Eduard Kolic. Both of the colleagues have joined us today for this conversation. And I want to welcome you very much because having you on board means we can fact check what is actually happening on the ground. We can see your perspectives on how you're dealing with the elephant, how you're dealing with Lanka, and also your future perspectives. And maybe at the end, we will see whether we can find some ways of cooperation to improve the situation. But as I do not want to get too long, and I think we should start our conversation immediately, I would like to hand over the floor to Marno Milotic, who is the director of the National Park Brioni, and to give us some background. Where is Brioni? What is the historical background? And how did that all actually come? Please take the floor, Marno.
Thank you, Thomas. Well, the National Park Brioni was actually proclaimed very late in the 1983. On the 25th of October, but there's a huge history before that. And the story about the animal starts around late 1800s and the beginning of the 1900s, when this was part of Austria territory. Of course, it was the Austrian South. And then the island was in the ownership of Mr. Paul Kupelwieser. And well, he had really famous friends, and one of them was Mr. Karl Hagenbeck. Sorry, I couldn't remember. Yeah, Karl Hagenbeck, who, if maybe you know, maybe not, he was a pioneer of the modern zoos. Well, if you go into the subject really deep, then you will find out maybe that in the beginning things, if you look at from today's perspective, it's a little bit well, questionable, his methods at that time for the zoo and the keeping of the animals, but at that time actually was quite an improvement, because in the island of the Brioni they made the first acclimatization station in Europe, which was kind of a resort for animal as a quarantine, where the animals were taken from Africa or all over the world were acclimatized to a new climate here before was taken to Berlin or the other zoos into Europe. Because if you transfer them immediately, the animals from the tropical areas would not survive the winters in this cold area of Europe. So it was quite an important place, and this is kind of a more than 120 years old story, which in a way was kept up till today, how all of these animals came to be on the island. In that time, there was ostriches, giraffes, even the monkeys, the chimpanzees, a lot of cats like lions and jaguars and tigers and so on. Of course, today this is not possible to keep this kind of animals anymore. We as a national park are now registered as a recovery center for wildlife animals. We have quite a large of staff who is taking care of the animals. We have an enormous amount of institutes and other zoos like Zagreb, Ljubljana, Prague, Vienna, Pilsen, and so on, who are very supportive, and we exchange the knowledge and the contacts and even the education and trainings of the people working with the animals. And now we are trying to collaborate in animal exchange and so on. Of course, before any animal exchange is put in motion, you have to consider that you have to make the conditions for this animal species that you want to take care of and have inside the park. Also, our biggest now issue, I mean, we as a recovery center have not just from the aquariums and institute as a sea biologist, but also as a wildlife animals. We often get a lot of injured animals that we take care of, and after they recuperate here in the national park, then we try to, of course, put them back into the wild if it's possible, and if it's some kind of indigenous species. If it's not, or if it's impossible to find a shelter for these animals, for example, there's a lot of animals that we get from the ministry department that are confiscated as illegal border. They try to smuggle it through the borders, like some kind of illegal species or something like that. Then, of course, we have to make sure and put this animal and offer it a continuous stay, and have a habitat. So it's becoming larger and larger over the years. Well, of course, with that also there's a financial matter that needs to be taken care of, and we have to we put a lot of money in this kind of rescue center, because these animals need to be taken care of. They need a veterinarian care, they need vitamin supplements, they need, every animal and every species is quite different. And basically, well, it's a 24 hours everyday care.
And then at a certain point, the big leader of the Yugoslav nation, Josip Tito, was taking care of the island, and this is more or less where actually the infrastructure from today stems from. Am I right?
Not exactly. Actually, the infrastructure was all made during the Austrian times by the Pol Kupelwieser, but later Tito practically inherited the island and made it his personal private presidential residence. And as he was very fond of the animals, he let the zoo stay. He didn't discharge it. He didn't. Well, he expanded it even. And then, of course, as the other presidents in that time who were coming to visit him, all had this idea and knowledge that he likes the animals. So every president that came on the island brought him some kind of animals. That's when Indira Gandhi brought Lanka, when she was just 2 years old. It was the beginning of the 60s. And well, it wasn't unusual as it is today.
And just for all listeners who don't know where Brioni is, it's close to Pula. It's in Istria, on the western side of Istria. It's worth a visit, I would say. A very nice island. So, okay, let's talk about how the story of the elephants actually began, and of Lanka that is still living. Maybe Anita, could you give us a bit of more insight on the history actually of the elephants on the island?
Am I qualified? If the people that live with her, actually. Well, I'm an animal welfare person, and I met Lanka the first time, I think in 2017 or 18, visiting the park, and was approached by international animal welfare organizations also in this time, but more seriously in 2019, to actually have a look and see what's going on there, how serious is the situation, because tourists from the UK or from Germany were contacting animal welfare organizations asking, like, this poor elephant, she looks so miserable, what can be done? So I went back there, had a look, and found out about her story, being from Germany, living in Croatia. I didn't know much about Lanka and the story, as Marno just told us. So Lanka was a gift in times where wild animals were gifted, like we bring cakes today, I would say. She came to Brioni and she had a partner there waiting for her Sonny, who was a male elephant, and they grew up together there and spent a lot of time together. Being the pets of the zoo and like the family property, more or less, also of Tito. So also his children or grandchildren were also part of the animals. I know I think the parrot, what's his name, Koki or something, he was with Alexandra, I think, with the granddaughter of Tito for a very long time also, but he's living on Brioni now. And actually, I don't know much about that bird. I've never seen him. I just know where the cage is. You have to show him to me once. And yeah, Lanka and Sony lived on the island ever since, actually. There are rumors, or there's facts actually, that the park was in financial crisis in, I think, 2004, when there came the decision, we have to give the elephants away, and they had to be sold. So there was, I think, even an Austrian circus showed interest and took the elephants and wanted to train them for the circus, Circus Gärtner, which did not end well. The elephants were removed from the circus trainer. Sony was really in a bad condition after this. Lanka was allegedly able to free herself from the truck. She was held inside. And somehow this actually brought many organizations and people and celebrities together saying, well, these are our elephants. We need to fight for our elephants. They're part of our history. Tito is part of the history. These are his elephants. So actually the fundraising started back then, and the fight came actually to bring it together, that these elephants got what they needed at that time for these standards back in these days, to keep them and to take care of them until Sony died in 2010. And an unhappy event overnight. The keepers came in the morning and found him dead, and Lanka was just trumpeting all over the island. They could hear her when they were approaching already. They knew something was wrong and found the dead Sony at that moment. This is the story I was told by someone close to that situation. And since then, Lanka has been a solitary elephant, which goes against the European Zoo Directive, of course. We should never hold an elephant alone, but we have plenty of those in Europe still, because the circumstances are like this, and the park also already said they're open to find a partner for her now. So let's hope we continue this conversation later to get Lanka someone she is not alone. But she was never alone. The keepers treat her like, you know, like their own, it seems. She seems very comfortable around humans. I did her several times. And it's an amazing animal to talk to, actually. We were like taking pictures of her and talking to her. And then we started, my buddy and me started chatting like this, not paying attention to her. And suddenly a stone right beside me and another stone right beside him. she was literally like targeting, and I was like, hey, I'm here, look at me, talk to me, you know. She is amazing. She's not an elephant that has been trained in circuses or, you know, abused like most elephants are, and she doesn't look like she is like suffering from any mistreatment, maltreatment. She might be suffering from being alone. It is said she was depressive after Sunny died, and she is really, of course, being alone is not easy for an elephant. And I think she's afraid of rabbits, right? Of rabbits? No? There was some story like she's like, wah! Trumpeting when a rabbit comes. Was it a rabbit or something else? I don't know. But her paddock was enlarged when the giraffes were gone, if I'm not right. If I'm right, this thing where she's living now is a bit bigger than before.
The giraffes were next door, next to her habitat.
Yeah.
And if I don't know if you want to talk some more, but
we have 45 minutes. Don't worry.
I would like to just correct the story. Well,
please go.
Park, as you told us in the beginning of the 2000s, the management of the park always refused the transfer of the animals, especially Sony and Lanka. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. One of the most important reason is because Sony was already an older elephant, and like Lanka is today. And we knew that, well, I wasn't here at the time, but we knew at that time, the park knew that it's going to be a problematic event, and that it's going to be very difficult to adapt in the new situation and in the new habitat and so on. And the park never wanted to give it away, but it was a huge pressure of the politics in that time. Of course, then the national park as it was, and this environmental knowledge, I think 20 years back changed tremendously. So how we consider and how we deal with animals today, and the approach we are giving. Sorry, I will just have to move a little bit from the sun. Well, it's a totally different approach that was done 20 or 30 years back. And of course, in 50 years back when Lanka came, also was a totally different story. Her habitat and her enclosures in that time were 10th of the size that they are today. Of course, by the law in Croatia and the rest of Europe, and by the guidelines of the European Zoo Association, that we all try now to act accordingly. Simply were too different. So now, for example, in the law legislation in Croatia, you can have 3 female elephants on the 500 square meters. Of course, Lanka is the only female elephant, and has over 2,000 square meters. So, you know, if we are talking about the size of her space, it's a lot larger than it is supposed to be. But of course, we are this is our family, it's our island. We are now talking among our friends here, the Thomas and you, and because the approach of the national park is all that we here are representing to the world and to the European Union. And we all want what is best for the animals and what is best for the Lanka. And of course that we want to make her environment even better, you know, and we already started the projects that we're going to enrich her establishment, and that we are going to make it even bigger now. The problem is also we are going to take care of and put a sand that will be easier on her feet all around her enclosure. and on the outside. And also we were thinking of the new sand pit and maybe a bigger swimming pool for her, but she has 2 swimming pools now inside. But we would like to restore both of them and even make it bigger than they are today. For example, also during the summer times, she has these outside showers where she can bathe underneath, so she doesn't get too hot. And you know, there's enrichment programs all around the day for her with hay and with the fresh fruit and with the people that are working with her. Also, you know, the elephant is a social animal, as Anita explained, and of course it would be better to have a company to her. But the question is now that we were supposed to discuss, do we want to bring another elephant with her? If we do, then it would be better to have a younger elephant, like a baby or something like that, because she will probably accept it better, and it's high probability that she will accept the young than the old elephant. And if we are bringing an old elephant, then also we don't want to make a pressure on her that we don't know how she will react to it. You know, we don't like the animals. For example, she was never mistreated animal. She was never a mistreated elephant. If she gets another elephant near her who is mistreated, like the circus animal and so on, there's always a probability that he or she is going to hurt Lanka, or that they are not going to interact very well. Do we really want to, you know, make her last years stressful? So these are kind of the things that I think are better to discuss it and kind of make a decision that will benefit her on.
If I may come in here, just to wrap up a bit what the situation is up to now. I mean, there's two, I would say, two sides of the medal. The first side is if you come to Brioni, if you visit the zoo or you call it safari park, I think, you see actually well-maintained areas with groups of animals which have a lot of space when it comes to zebras and others, types of buffaloes and so on. So you see all of them have a lot of space. And then you come to Lanka and you see a single animal in, well, enriched already, but still relatively limited space and relatively partly old infrastructure, partly you see already some new infrastructure as well. And she's alone there. And as you said, elephants are social animals. In nature, they're living in herds. They have a very developed social interaction and social system actually within their herds. So you immediately realize as a visitor, that's a bit of a, let's say, sad situation. On the other hand, if you have seen other elephants that did not have the luck, I would say, to live on a comparable okay place and which were treated in a friendly way most of her life, or maybe even all of her life, except this circus adventure after 2004, you see an animal that is still, let's say, has the attention with people, gives a friendly impression, is not showing the signs of mental illness or mental effects of being in this situation for a long time. This was my impression, but maybe let's have Anita to talk about that. What's your assessment? I mean, you've seen and you've worked with elephants and on elephants in very different situations. How would you see Lanka's situation compared to other elephants? How is her behavior, and how is your impression also about her state of mind, and also, I mean, that's related to how she's treated?
Well, I wouldn't exaggerate and say I have worked with many elephants, but I do have seen elephants, and I'm working with elephant experts who are teaching or have been teaching me a lot in the past years about elephants. Seeing Lanka, I see she's sad and she's alone. This is really the first expression you get, or impression. You know, you look in her eyes, she's like looking at you in the afternoon when there's nobody and you just stay there, and she's just craving attention. She's like a kid, you know. If I compare her to other elephants, of course, if you go, I don't want to drop names and blame other zoos now, but there are other zoos. When you see these elephants, you're like just in shock. They're emaciated, they're skinny, they show repetitive behavior like shaking or leaning their head against the wall, etc. Lanka does not display such behavior. So she is in a much better place for a solitary captive elephant. This is for sure. And this is also why my organization hasn't started any campaign actually to free Lanka, let's say, like usually, you know, you have campaigns, Free Lanka, Free Willy, whoever, Save the Whales. This is why we tried actually to get in touch with the government, with the park, and also Marno came back to me after I gave a few calls to his secretary, and we started a really normal, good conversation to see what can be done for Lanka, what can we do, because we want to help. I've come with a team of experts and European organizations who are willing to help Lanka in any way. We offered another place for her, like a refuge for elephants, would be covering the costs. And the same goes for any other captive elephant in Europe. You can contact me if you think there's an elephant that needs rescuing. Contact me. I'm sure you can find my contacts in this event. We want to help Lanka to live a good life. Lanka has a relatively good paddock. She is, the feeding regime is okay, could be better. We spoke about it. And I think what was like not perfect, I think now is perfect. And she needs more company. This is, I think, the most important thing for her. She is alone. You see it in her eyes, that she is alone. She needs so much. She needs more people, or an elephant, or I don't know what other cat or dog not, but something needs to be with her. She craves company, and you can see this. And I think this is what the tourists and the guests that contact us or other organizations saying, this poor elephant, this is what they see. They see a lonely, sad elephant on the small paddock, as you just said. You know, the zebras, it's like not ending their paddock, and then you come to the small part, and then you have the elephant in this relatively small thing. It is 2,000 square meters, but it could be more, especially if you see how much space we have there. And I really hope this will happen. Sorry, Marno, you're trying to say something.
Well, we have a lot more space. That's what I wanted to tell you. I mean, so we want to expand the enclosure now. Well, I don't think in general that it will do her much better, but it will make a better feeling. And also what we had before, and what you saw, Thomas, if you were here, I don't know, a couple of years back, well, it's this enclosure that it's now around her, it's, well, with these steel pipes really heavily made for when Sony was before here, because he was much larger and he was aggressive. So it was kind of a protection, protection for the people coming in, not just you know, not just to keep him checked, but now we don't need it, because Lanka, it's not like, she's not like that. She's like Anita said, she's like a big baby. She's mentally, you can approach her, you can feed her, you can talk to her. She's really a pleasant animal, you know. She's not she doesn't behave erratically, you know. And what we are trying to do now, and we will do it, we will take away all of these heavy materials, like this heavy fence, the steel fence. And we are now deciding with the other zoos in Pilsen and Vienna and Ljubljana, which is the best, the modern way that the elephant doesn't feel enclosed, and also that the people don't see the fence anymore, because now you can use pillars, just the pillars, because the elephant cannot pass through it. You know, you don't need the fence at all, or you can just you can have kind of a trench with the water, or even without the water. It's a kind of a thing with the elephant will not pass through it. We also had some proposals from other zoos that we put kind of a invisible electric fence. This was immediately thrown out. We decided not to do this. We never had an electric fence on the island. This is something that if she gets electrocuted in any way, then she will she will be scared. She will never behave in the same way. She will never approach again human being, and this is not a good thing. And we are so against that kind of that type of foreclosures. So what me and Eddie will do now is we'll have this meetings with the other zoos and find the solution. But what I wanted to say, when we will expand the enclosure, we already have, but we will then have a huge amount of space. We can easily fit another elephant inside. So if we have a problematic elephant, not a problematic elephant, but if other zoos like Vienna or whatever has a young elephant or some elephant that they don't know where to put, we have enough space and we can take care of it. It's not a problem. And also it will do really good it would be really good for Lanka. Well, now we are approximating the price of this project of renovating her habitat, and we estimated that it is going to be around 300,000 euros. Of course, it's impossible to finance it all in 1 year and all by ourselves. So we will see what we can do. What we've done so far is that we have already started this approach with the newspapers and Facebooks and so on. So we published during the summer kind of let's help Lanka all together, and please donate the funds for Lanka so we can pursue in this enrichment of her enclosure. But I have to say that we didn't get a response, because people like to criticize a lot, but when they need to put some money in it, and if you ask them to help something, usually they go back. And I will say to you in 2 months now that we were been in this project, helping Lanka and funding a new enclosure, we gathered about 300 euros. That's about enough to cover her food expense for 1 day. So I guess if we discussed this with Anita already, and she has some ideas how to raise funds for that it would help us. And if you also, Thomas, can some kind of get involved in this area and help us a little bit, well, just put it out there on the Facebook accounts and so on, social media, so the people can help. I'm sure that a lot of people are willing to donate, but maybe just hadn't didn't hear about it so far.
Well, I come back to that question in a second, but just to reflect once again, I mean, the fact that after all these years in capture and after all these years being alone, Lanka is still in such a good shape. I mean, physically and mentally points a very good light on the way you're treating her and you're taking care for her. So this is maybe a different situation than we see in other places. And this is a very positive reflection. And it's good to hear that you are already collecting and crowdfunding for a new environment. I didn't know that up to now. So even me being interested, and I was there actually this summer, early summer, to visit Lanka and to have a look. I'm sure that we need to have more people get across that information and have an opportunity to crowdfund, because usually I can tell you such a project is perfect for crowdfunding. This is a project where you can reach a lot of people's heart and then also pockets, yeah, to donate something. So probably we can help with some advertisement there. And it's also good to hear that you are actually, I mean, just to put it in a clear context, Lanka is not just an elephant somewhere. She is kind of a national heritage. Yeah. She's part of the country's history, even now Croatia's history, and so she represents. She's an historical artifact, if you want so, and a live artifact. And so, I just to explain also to our listeners and viewers why there is a reluctance to think about bringing Lanka to maybe an elephant sanctuary, which would be a possibility.
Sorry, we lost the connection.
So you're clearly focusing on bettering the situation through bringing another elephant, and you said you're in cooperation with different European zoos. What are your concerns on and in a difficult situation? What are your fears in that relation? Because you said. Yes?
Sorry, the line is breaking a little bit. Could you repeat the question, please?
Oh, that's bad. So my question was, you're already open for the idea to bring another elephant, a companion for Lanka, and you said you would prefer a young elephant. Why is it not an option for you, or out of your perspective, to maybe bring an elephant that is in a difficult situation, that would be where it would be an advantage for the elephant to actually get companionship and get a place where he or she is taken care of in a good way? What are your arguments on that?
Well, we are not against it, and we would like to help another elephant who was mistreated and that we can take care of. It's just a matter of that we are looking out for Lanka. We think that that kind of animal next to her can bring her a lot of stress, and because that new animal that was mistreated will take a huge amount of time to adapt to the new environment, which is not threatening to it anymore. That she will not interact well in the beginning with the humans, with the people that are bringing her or him the food and taking care of it. And because you have to take care of it every day, you have to wash it, you have to take care of her feet, her nails, so you have to approach this animal. And if you have an animal that was mistreated and is afraid of humans, then it's really problematic to do so. And you need a large timestamp so you can, that she kind of, let's say, forgets the mistreatments and start to behaving normally, and that she feels safe again. And all of this time, it's impossible to bring this animal next to Lanka because they will not interact well. So you need a period of a large timestamp that you get the animal in a good mental condition, that you can approach then and commute with Lanka. It's much easier, and it would be better if we want to deal with this problem as soon as possible. For example, if you want to do it in a year or two, then we should bring a younger elephant which wasn't so misbehaved, you know, because it would be easier. But of course, the variation, everything is possible. We are not running away from, you know, the possibility of saving another animal. It would be a perfect thing to do, of course, but it will just take it will take a lot of years, and Lanka will not benefit from it. That's my idea. Also, before, when you referred to the state of the Lanka, you know, why Lanka was so good treated over the years, because also she was a presidential elephant. She was a gift to the president, and well, always she had and this zoo was a presidential zoo, so she got all the best veterinarians and all the best care, and of course that care evolved during the years, because as I explained before, it wasn't the same in the 60s what it is now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the focus is now actually to enlarge the area, to invest into the circumstances of her living there, and to actually prepare the area to be actually able to welcome a companion or a second animal. This is the main focus now from your side. Yeah. How do you see that approach, Anita?
Well, I think it's good. I don't see, from what I learned from other elephant experts and like people who have actually run elephant sanctuaries in the States, that it is such a great or difficult task to introduce a new elephant to another elephant. He says he never saw conflict, never really saw a big problem. They are herd animals. They're very happy actually to get company. So I think with experts and a good team, I think it should be doable for Lanka to meet someone new in the distance for the beginning and then introduce them slowly, etc. You just need the manpower and the expertise for this. And I think it would be an amazing solution for Lanka. Also with a bigger paddock, of course. And Brioni is perfect for a life of an elephant. If we look at the climate in Europe, Brioni is still in the south of Croatia, close to Italy. It is really a good climate. The winters are not so good, but they're also not so bad, actually. Which brings me to one question, actually. How is the regimen this winter for Lanka? She has her winter building, which is heated. How does it work? Maybe you can tell me a little bit, because I only know the old regimen.
Yeah, well, Lanka has actually, well, two buildings, which one is the summer residence, where she can go into the shade and so on. Also, in every building, she has food and water and not enough hay, which is given to her every day. There's 100 kilos of new hay brought in every day. She, when we discussed the feeding regimen before with you, also. But during the winter time, she has this winter enclosure, which is also a lot larger than it needs to be for one elephant, especially the female one. She has the heatings, the electrical heating system that keeps her warm inside the enclosure, and this was never a problematic thing during the winter, because the winters here are not cold. You have maybe 2 days during the whole winter when the temperature is +4, +2. The rest of it's quite warmer. So that's why Brioni was the acclimatization station, because of this warm winters and because of the very hot summers, and it was a perfect area that you can introduce the animal to. So we didn't have.
She can go in and out as she wants, or do you have hours when she's inside?
Out every day. Every day, yeah, because. Every day we take her out, and then well, you can tell a little bit about this. I can translate because he's with her actually. Zimski režim, mi možeš objasniti kako je? Oni svako jutro
izlaze vani, po cijele dane je vani, po cijele dane se šeće, igra se sa našim.
Okay.
I tek popodne oko 3 sata, 4 odlazi u svoju nas.
Okay, now, yeah. So they take her every day out of the enclosure. So she plays around the area the whole day on the outside because it's not too cold. If it is, then we have blankets and so on that we cover her, but it's usually not even needed. And after that, in the 3 or 4 in the afternoon, goes back in the enclosure. By then, already the sun is going down, so it's not a problem.
Yeah. To maybe come back to one of your questions, and this is about possibilities of financing. Yeah. I don't know how good your contacts to your own government are, but you may have heard about, excuse me, this Recovery and Resilience Fund. This was actually the first time ever all European countries came together and put their finances together and put their credibility together to set up this huge fund, which will be disseminated to the countries in the near future. I think they have even started already with the countries that have come up with a plan. And a big chunk of that money, the reason of this recovery fund is to rebuild our economy after the COVID crisis and to finance the transition towards green economy, let's say so. And this is okay on one side, all the questions around climate crisis and how do we make our society CO2 neutral or with less CO2 emissions, but there's also a big part of the budget allocated to measurements towards biodiversity and sustainable tourism also. Sustainable tourism is something that is eligible within that recovery fund. And I'm not the best expert, as I'm a member of the parliament and not of the commission that actually deals with the permissions for the funds. But as far as I know, Brioni, with all the natural beauty that it has, and as national park, and also with the concept of sustainable and, let's say, soft tourism that you're having, if you ask me, would be fully eligible to participate in the recovery fund. So if you are not in contact yet with your government, I would urge you to do that and to get in contact, because I'm sure, and as far as I know from the EU side, that kind of project would be eligible.
Yeah. We are in contact with the Croatian government. The problem is that we keep pointing out that the national parks and the parks of nature in the Croatian and all of the protected areas, which this country is so eager to advertise through tourism departments, you know. Eventually everyone forgets it when they need to put money inside, because we are the last resort and the end of the tail when they need to put any money for sustaining the national parks and the nature parks. That's really not a good thing. And the thing is that you are eligible through this Recovery and Resilience Fund through different mechanisms and different ministries. And basically, if we go through Ministry of Tourism, what is happening in Croatia now, that all the money is put into basically 2 areas. One of the areas through tourism input in recovery and the building, restoring the hotels department and this kind of big hotel complexes and villas and so on all around the coast, which is of course in no interest to us as a environmental protection department, and also through so we are not eligible through that. And the other part is that maybe through the Ministry of Economy or some other ministries, it's possible, but they have to also put out a public announcement that it's something acceptable to finance in our part, so we can apply. And usually now in Croatia, all the money is put in on rebuilding the private homes and companies after the earthquakes in Zagreb and in Sisak. So 99% of that money will go in regeneration of the companies that have fallen back during the COVID, or in the touristic department of renovation of the hotels, or in the renovation of the people's houses, which they lost during the earthquakes. So we are nowhere to be found in that department. That's the problem.
I think we're speaking of different fundings here, because the earthquake relief fund comes from the Solidarity Fund of the European Union, while the EU has this resilience fund for the coronavirus. And we also have EU fundings like the Zagreb Zoo received for their recovery center. I think they received how much, 2 million or something, to build their recovery center, which is similar to what you're doing, but I think yours is much more even qualified, because you do have animals and a project, while there it's another smaller scale actually.
Then we can approach this matter and go through that variation. That's good.
As I said, let's talk about funding in private.
Yeah, I mean, the crowdfunding is a good thing, yeah? But we talked about how can maybe the European Union help, and Anita and myself, we talked earlier that we could maybe do an event also in the European Parliament, not just on Lanka, but on several elephants that are still kept across European Union and Europe, and raise some more attention. I will also talk to my Croatian colleagues, MEPs, who I work with a lot on foreign policy, on the Western Balkan countries and so on. To the government, my connections in the moment are not at the best, because I was attacking Hrvatske šume on illegal deforestation. And so I'm black spotted with the government, but that's okay for me. It's no problem. Yeah,
I'm so proud of you.
I'm getting a lot of mails from Croatian citizens that say, thank you, Mr. Waits, and we're so embarrassed that we need an Austrian MEP to talk about that. No, but that's not a story. But I have very good connections to my Croatian colleagues, yeah, and maybe I can find the one or the other colleague that would went together with me, maybe from the ruling party, or so we could maybe also get the government on board, because seriously, I'm coming from Austria, and some things we did well, and this is, as an example, developing tourism. Yeah? There we're really good at it. Unfortunately, we're also good in developing mass tourism, but not only. We're doing both. We have the soft tourism and the mass tourism at the same time, but especially when it comes to soft tourism, to nature tourism, to regional areas where you can where you have recreational areas. Yeah, your island it's a jewel. It's a jewel, and it's well, some people have realized, but I think also in economic terms, it would give a lot of potential to develop it in the way it is. I don't mean building mass tourism hotels on the island, but including it into the local tourist strategy, and kind of polishing the jewel back to what potential it would have for the coastal also tourism, because it's a real attraction. And so let's see if we can do something there. On the conditions, also please forward me for the crowdfunding, forward me all these informations, so I can at least spread it over my networks, which are also reaching quite some people, but also I can also show to my Croatian colleagues, yeah, and maybe I can win them to do a call together, yeah. To do a call to the public together, and to you, Anita, maybe we can also see if we can get the one or the other civil society organization, animal welfare organization, with us to promote that. You have contacts, I have a lot of contacts. I have been working now, and I'm still working in the inquiry committee on animal transports in the European Parliament. We're now negotiating the report. I'm the shadow rapporteur, so the negotiator for the Greens. And also there we have a lot of civil society organizations involved. So forward me these informations and also like the pictures that you have and the footage that you are using for promotion. And let's see if we can get the one or the other civil society organization also on board, as they have a huge audience and huge email lists they can contact. So I think this could be a way forward.
I think the park is a government institution or part of a government institution, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's percent owned by the government. All the national parks are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is like, you know, for civil society, NGOs is always a little bit of like fundraising for a government institution is always a little bit difficult because we fundraise for non-profit, not for government institution. This is, I think, the only thing where people might say like, what is going on here?
Because, you know, the Brijuni is a little bit different than the rest, the other parks in Croatia, because we are a public institution owned by the government, but we don't get paid through the government. We are forced to finance ourselves 100% from the income that we get from the tickets entry of the park and the hotel business that, well, we kind of inherited because it was, you know, in the island when we got the park, when the park was established. So basically we finance ourselves, and, you know, the tourism, it's one good year and then there are some bad years, for example, like now with COVID, and it's very difficult to maintain, you know, the staff, the people, and all the expenses that are carrying out. Of course, the government is able to jump in if the things get too heavy. But, well, now where expenses are just cut down on every corner because of the COVID and all of this, a lot of expenses that were made and given through the government in the last 2 years. Now it's impossible to expand any funding or get a new funding that you hadn't had before. So as we had none, we cannot get a new one. So basically we are stuck in this circle, and we need to get the money ourselves. Basically we behave now, we are in a situation like any other private or, I don't know, NGOs or whatever. It doesn't matter. We are in the same position.
Mm-hmm. That is good to know. Do you maybe have a link already for us that we can share with the people that are watching us now? And we're also recording this session, so it will be possible for people to look at it later as well. If you have a chat already, if you have a link already, you can put it in the chat.
Yes, sorry, I didn't. I really don't, but there is a link. If you follow us on our Facebook account, MP Brijuni, you will find there a call for the funding for the Lanka. And also, if it's not too late, we will send it later today or tomorrow, because right now I don't have it here.
Sure, we can add it to my Facebook presentation later. It will be, people will be able to see that conversation on my Facebook page, and we can add the link. And I think we should add the link.
Also, we'll put a story also in English, so well, people can understand, because I think the last time was only in Croatian. So to get,
yeah, that's great. Let's do that.
Yeah. I think it's vital for it to be in English, to get international fundraising.
Before.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Both languages. Yes, sure. Yeah. Sure. There's also a lot of Croatian or comparable languages spoken citizens across the European Union living in other countries. Okay, I think we have 2 more minutes or so. Anita, you want to have some final words before I end this session?
Thank you. I just want to first of all thank you, Marno and Eddie, for being here and actually to be open for the conversation. It took me 2 years to get to you. That's how hard it was. And I'm happy we're here and we've come so far, actually. And I hope we really can do something for Lanka. For me, the goal is not, or for us, I'm speaking also for a team here that has interest in helping Lanka. The interest is not to move her away from Brioni. But if we have to, we will. We will find a way. This is a very clear message to you. Be aware that we really want the best for Lanka. But we are seeing that you're trying really your best for Lanka. So I don't think there's a need to move her if you really advance and do what you promised now. One thing I want to add is you keep mentioning the size of her paddock and how it is enough. It's never enough. An elephant comes from Africa or India where they can run kilometers a day. You know, 2,000 square meters does sound a lot, but you see her walking over that thing. It's nothing for her. An animal never has enough space. And this island is big enough really for all the animals that are there, because it's not so many.
Yes, there's always big contradictions in having, thank you. And there's always big contradictions in having animals in capture and what is the appropriate space for an animal. Well, there's huge differences between capture and wildlife. But as you have mentioned earlier, there is enough space, Marno, there is enough space, and you're working already on a proposal, and we will try to support you with that. Also with the funding, I will personally donate something, and let's see if we can raise the attention and help you with this, so you're put in a position also, and you are prepared to maybe welcome a companion for Lanka. That would really sound like a good solution. And I want to thank you very much on joining us, on talking to us, on sharing your knowledge with us. And I wish you all the best for the future of the whole national park. And I want to recommend to all people that are watching this, go and have a look. It's not far, not from Central Europe at least, and it's really worth going. The whole area is nice. Istria is fantastic, but Brioni as such is a real jewel, and I would recommend you to visit it. And to you, Marno and Eduard, I wish you all the best, and thank you very much for joining this conversation, and good luck, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Anita.